The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is one of the most anticipated games of this year, 2023. We've been given trailers and teasers here and there from Nintendo since 2019, and they've shown us some interesting things about the game, but I've kept a lot of it open-ended so as not to spoil it. We got a trailer this year, and it doesn't seem like we'll be getting another one before the game comes out, so here's what we have. We've been given 4 of these trailers and teasers, and since the game comes out in a few months, I thought it would be a good idea to go through each of these trailers and teasers to speculate on what we can see, what information we have, what we could expect from Tears of the Kingdom, and I hope you enjoy the video. So let's start off at the beginning with the first look trailer of E3 2019. Right off the bat, we have a bunch of spirit-like energy that looks like it's spelling out letters from the Gerudo alphabet. What supports this is that Gerudo lettering has some sorts of swirls in each letter. Each letter also corresponds with a letter from the English alphabet, so naturally, people thought words were being spelt out here. Seal Ganon and Forgive Us God. I've tried to decipher the text to see if it actually spells out those sentences, but oh man, it might be a bit of a stretch. But if these words or something similar are actually being spelt out here, it's very thematic. We can see Ganondorf being held back by some sort of spirit arm. What this arm could be is up for debate. Could it be a sage's, a Gerudo's, a toilet arm's? Ganondorf also looks extremely withered with Calamity spilling out of him. It would explain why Calamity has spread all around Hyrule, and why it took so long for Ganondorf to attack. Because the flow of Calamity looks pretty slow, and it looks like it's flowing out of his heart, so maybe this spirit arm is holding back the flow, and in doing so is holding back Ganondorf from terrorizing Hyrule. Good try. Moving on, we get some miscellaneous shots with most of them having Link, Zelda, and an elephant-looking creature in them. Link looks similar to the previous game, but Zelda has shorter hair. Did she cut it, or is this a prequel? They seem to be exploring a cave with some ancient wall paintings and structures inside. They portray who we could assume to be Ganondorf wielding a spear on a horse, which would also probably be his horse that we can find in Breath of the Wild. And there are some other figures behind and in front of him. We can't really make them out properly though. One has a bow, and it's possible that they're all Gerudo women. Prophecy and fate are pretty big themes in Zelda, so it's very likely that these paintings could have alluded to events that have or will happen. And now we get to the bread and butter of the trailer, Ganondorf. We get some very good close-ups of him being held back, and I love the detailing on his body. He looks almost mummified, but more or less just a lean structure of muscle. We can see that he has a crown on, some jewelry, has his red hair grown out, and he's wearing some wraps with Gerudo insignia on them. As far as designs go, it's a pretty unique yet familiar design for Ganondorf. From here, we get a bunch of shots in quick succession. It looks like Link has a spirit arm take over his right arm or replace it, Calamity spreads hard, Link and Zelda reach for each other's hands, and a temple structure gets zoomed up on which looks a lot like the Zonai structures from Breath of the Wild. You know, that Aztec-looking stuff. A spirit arm grabs Link, we see the event that could have led to Ganondorf being held back, and then Link and Zelda witness what looks to be Ganondorf's awakening. Well, in this case, a possible reawakening. I think, for the most part, these are snippets of how Ganondorf reawakens after Breath of the Wild that are probably all related. Which could mean that something happened after Breath of the Wild's events that would require some sort of investigating, like Calamity spreading again. Even so, it's hard to say. But either way, Link and Zelda investigate something. Something happens and Ganondorf awakens. At least, that's what it looks like. And then from there, we have a quiet shot of Hyrule before the castle shakes and starts lifting from the ground. After that, we get some more Gerudo text before some other text telling us that the sequel to Breath of the Wild is in development. Well, that answers the question on if it's a sequel or a prequel. Nintendo has been pretty good at informing consumers on where Age of Calamity sat, so I think the same would apply here. Well, kind of. Anyway, back to the teaser. The castle rising up from the ground may allude to the fact that Ganondorf and the spread of Calamity was happening right underneath the castle. And these caves might also be found underneath too. It seems like it was also hinting at the verticality of Hyrule that we'd see in other future trailers. One thing I also need to mention is some of the audio in the trailer. During the start and the end, we can hear a very slow heartbeat which probably corresponds with Ganondorf's state. Withered and probably barely alive. Secondly, there's chanting just after the start that's being played in reverse. Reversing the audio plays it back in what sounds like its original form. Thanks to a video on YouTube by Taco called "The Secret Reverse Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 Trailer Music Has Been Solved," it's pointed out that the music reverse sounds like the events of 100 years ago cutscene music.
Stories of Ganon were passed from generation to generation in the form of legends and fairy tales. But there was also a prophecy.
But that's that. Trailer number 1, an incredibly mysterious one that grabbed our attention. About 2 years later, we got the 2021 E3 teaser. It starts off with a bang. We have Calamity spreading with a shot of Link having it overtake his right arm, Ganondorf rising up, and Zelda falling into darkness mixed in between. This shot of Link might explain why he has a spirit arm in the first trailer, because of Calamity. And Zelda falling into this darkness might be one of the catalysts for our adventure, to rescue Zelda and obviously to defeat Ganondorf. And then we get a breathtaking montage of Link and what we'll encounter in this remixed Hyrule. From the get-go, we can see that Link looks unkempt, and he looks a lot like how he does in that the events of 100 years ago video. This scene here is also seen in Sheikah's explanation of the events 10,000 years ago where Ganondorf was defeated. Check out Link, or specifically a previous version of him. He looks very much like the Link from this era. Could this be a callback of some kind to a method that worked, and that's why he's dressed like that? It's a lot to consider and think about, but I don't think this is a mere coincidence. Moving on, look at the tons of floating islands around Hyrule. It's safe to say that these islands could be a result of the Calamity lifting them up into the sky, or, and this might be a bit of a stretch, but we might have come full circle and the islands of Skyloft have come down. But who knows, there could be a more simple explanation for it. The vistas and music in this teaser are beautiful, and we get a small sneak peek at some of the new enemy types. A stone machine of some type, a stone talus with an enemy patrol, and a base on top of it. This stone machine might be an upgraded version of a Beamos, an Igor, or some sort of ancient structure powered by spirits, since we can see it pieced together with some sort of spirit power. We also get a better look at Link's right arm. It seems to have been replaced by some sort of machinery or technology that can tap into spirits or a spirit power. It looks a lot like the one holding back Ganondorf. We then see Link using his right arm to rewind this rolling spike ball, which begs the question, is his new arm going to replace the Sheikah Slate with new abilities? Will we still get a Sheikah Slate, or a bit of both? And then we see this strange alien plant-looking creature get burnt up by a weapon Link's wielding. It looks like a flamethrower with a Zonai aesthetic to it. Interesting. We then see this puddle do, this, and then Link uses more spirit power coming from his right arm to phase through this surface here to check out this nice vista. The platform he phased through looks like an entrance to some sort of small sky temple or area that we could get an item from. From there, we have similar sounding reverse music kick in, and again, that video by Taco shows that this music is very similar to the music used in the events of 100 years ago cutscene. Very interesting, and while this music continues, we see how Hyrule Castle rose from the ground, and that's because of Ganondorf's Calamity. Everything goes black after this, and then we see 2022. Well, delays happened, so the 2022 release date never came to be. A trailer explaining the delays was announced by Eiji Aonuma in a video too. Nothing crazy is stated, but it does confirm the verticality and sky exploration that we've seen in other trailers. I say the biggest part of the trailer is our sneak peek at the Master Sword, its condition, and the confirmation of the spring 2023 release. The Master Sword looks so cool despite being damaged, and I wonder what this yellow orb does. Could it repair the Master Sword or power up something? After all, Aonuma does say that there will be new features and gameplay to enjoy while it's on screen, so that could be a hint to something. Now the following year, 2022, we got the first of the official trailers. It starts off with ominous wall art depicting some sort of creature or deity, bokoblins, moblins, and hylians in a battle, and then the creature or deity again. But this time we see more of it, and it's holding 7 stones of some kind around it. That's a very interesting detail because the number 7 in Zelda usually corresponds with the number of sages in the games, so it could be related to them. We then see a person that looks like Zelda being lifted up, and then Zelda linking hands with someone. It's all very mysterious. Some writing in an unknown language can be seen here too, but what language is it? Well, keeping up with the theme of all of this stuff on the wall, it could be the Zonai's language. Everything we see here could be Zonai related or made by them, prophesized by them. Epic music kicks in and then we see Link open a giant door before running out into the wild and jumping off the island he's on. I love this part of the trailer, it's so good. And something important to note is that Link is wearing his champion tunic and his hair is shorter like how it is in Breath of the Wild. So could Link's hair grow throughout his journey? And if that's the case, would it grow periodically after every main quest or just grow over time regardless? And that begs another question, would we be able to get Link's hair cut if that were the case? We then see more of this time reversing power we saw in the 2021 E3 teaser, but this time it's sending Link upwards. This looks like it's a very useful mode of transportation for going up to an island, assuming that this is a part of the structure that fell off of an island, hence why it would be going back up. It seems like we might be getting a lot of callbacks to the past, whether that's from the aesthetics we've seen or abilities we've seen. There's also a pretty crazy storm going on in the background, and then we cut to Link climbing up a tree root high up in the sky. Nothing crazy here. And then we get this shot of Link landing on some sort of big bird glider as he looks over the horizon. There's a few things we can spot in the landscape too. Firstly, these spirit hoops coming out from a spire or funnel of some kind, and this giant spirit-like mosaic on a rock here. My money's still on it being related to the Zonai, but I've also got a sneaking suspicion that the Twily might have something to do with this and the game itself. It's more or less just a gut feeling, because the more we see this kind of stuff, the more and more it looks Twily. Could the Zonai be Twily, or descendants of them? But hold on, rewind a bit and there's also this part of the scene here that's really interesting. Apart from the mysterious looking islands, we can see that Death Mountain has Calamity spewing out of it. So does that mean that Calamity has spread wildly underground? If that were the case, then we could assume that Zora's Domain and the Gerudo Desert haven't met with a terrible fate, but I wouldn't be surprised if those places were screwed over in a different kind of way. If these 7 stones are anything to go off of, maybe the sky will hold some new dungeons or content related to some of the sages. And hey, maybe some of the islands have Calamity spread over them too. From here, we get a title screen with more ancient looking imagery on it, and then the release date. May 12th, 2023, the official release date to this very day. That was exciting, but now we have the biggest trailer yet, the final one, the second official trailer released in 2023. It opens with ominous music over a bunch of shots. The first one is a landscape with a lightning storm going off. We can see Death Mountain with Calamity spewing out of it again, and another one of those spirit funnel things. In the next shot, we can see a new enemy type flying around some sort of wooden structures. I instantly think of the dragonflies from Majora's Mask when I see these things, but they do look a bit different. We then get this shot here of a spirit mosaic on a rock and what look to be spotlights or landing lights surrounding 2 pillars. Could these be the Sheikah Towers or something else? And what would they do in this game? Map the lands again and be used as a teleport spot, or something entirely new, maybe something new for vehicles? We get another nice shot from the sky, and then this shot of some Lizalfos scouting and mining. They seem to be around Calamity, and some sort of beanstalk can be seen in the back too. Could this be another way to get to the islands in the sky? And look to the right, there's spirits roaming the grass, or maybe their pose. The flame's color scheme is similar to the pose from Twilight Princess, so that might mean something. From here, we get some dialogue and other shots, so I'll let them play out because they're very important.
Rise. Rise, my servants. Sweep over Hyrule. Eliminate this kingdom and her allies. Leave no survivors!
We have some really edgy dialogue from who we can assume to be Ganondorf before music kicks in. If that is Ganondorf, then wow, that is some voice acting, yeah. And hey, if this is Ganondorf, then this would be the first time we hear him speak actual dialogue and not just grunt. But anyway, let's look at the first shot. I think the biggest takeaway from this is the bridge, which could be the Bridge of Elden and the three-headed fire dragon. I'd assume that this dragon will act as a mini-boss blocking the other side of the bridge, which will open up a lot of gameplay opportunities. You could fight it, lose, and then come back when you're stronger, or find a way to run around it, or even navigate the waters below to the other side. We then get a shot of what looks to be Hateno Village and another spirit funnel. The blood moon appears, we see Hyrule Castle, and then calamity spreads. So it's safe to say the blood moon mechanic is back, but it looks a little bit different. An enemy is then shown doing something, and it looks like it's either being defeated or readying to fight. It also looks like some sort of guardian type of creature too. We then see a molten rock of some kind. It could be a boulder or a talus, and then we continue with some landscape shots, and then some enemies appear, assumably thanks to the blood moon. Most of them look like variants of pre-existing enemies because of their goofy little hats, but we also see a few new enemies, a chunkier bokoblin, and what looks to be a re-dead. If it is a re-dead, that would be awesome. With all of these skeleton enemies we saw in Breath of the Wild, you'd think that re-deads would have been one of those enemies too. Better late than never, assuming that this is a re-dead. We then cut to Link on a horse that looks like a Epona. We can see Hyrule Castle again, and then some sort of strange cloud formation. It almost looks like clouds on top of clouds leaking on each other, and it kind of looks like an hourglass too. We then see some sort of stampede in a canyon, Link under attack by guardian-looking claws in some sort of room, some more enemies, with the Hinox holding some sort of green orb around its neck on a necklace. Link glides off a cliff, rides on horseback again past some weird structure in the distance, enemies get carried around, fight Link, and I think I should point out something here. We've now seen enemies wearing materials on their heads. I think that these enemies are a developer's way of having players obtain certain materials faster or easier. You slay the enemy, you get the material just as you do when you defeat a Hinox wearing a necklace. You could probably take those materials off of the enemies too if you're quiet enough, and I guess those materials are their goofy hats. And then we see this rock pillarman swing down at Link. Could this be Zonai made? Ganondorf then rises before Zelda says this.
But Link, I am not sure you'll be able to stop him.
You know, for someone who waited 100 years for Link, she has little faith. So naturally, Link skydives and does some exploring to some epic music. He walks past an area with interesting looking patterns etched into the ground. Zonai perhaps? Crop circles? Link then shoots a flying creature with a fat ass arrow and some sort of spirit shot that guides it into exploding on the creature. That's pretty cool. And hey, look at that. There's a floating block in the sky. I wonder what it could be. Another maze perhaps? From here, we see Link riding minecart rails on his shield, which is an awesome mechanic, and it's good to note that there's this weird rock-looking growth in the top right corner of the shot with a pink wrap around it, almost squeezing it. We then see some structure being rotated, which pretty much suggests that we don't have a Sheikah Slate anymore and the arm has replaced it. Link then shoots some sort of ancient cannon at a talus when he does a flip, and then we can see who we assume to be Zelda reaching out to Link. We can see that she's wearing some new stone-looking jewelry. Zonai perhaps? Link then contemplates and we can see him in some good-looking armor and he has some strange tubes attached on his hip. Could it be ammunition for something? A weapon? Either way, we're at the most talked about part of the trailer now. Look at what Link fishes up. It's a wheel, and then he has a vehicle. It seems like Tears of the Kingdom will have a vehicle creation system of some kind. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I swear some other game tried that once and it went down great, so it should be fine here too. Nah, but in all seriousness, this creates so many gameplay and traversal opportunities and I can't wait to see how expansive it'll be. We have this vehicle, a hot air balloon, an airborne vehicle, and some of the parts we see attached to these vehicles are welded together with some sort of green spirit goo, or glue. And look at all of these islands. Big ones, small ones, a spherical one, and this long splintered spire one. I can't wait to explore these islands, and I know you're itching to do so as well. Link then rides off and we can see Calamity, fallen structures, a falling cube from the sky, mountains, and islands. We're met with that reverse music and chanting again, reminiscent of that The Events of 100 Years Ago cutscene while the title screen fades in. It then cuts to Ganondorf's Calamity surging out of him towards Link. He then promptly jumps for Zelda. This is probably more parts of the events we saw in the first 2019 trailer, and what led to Zelda falling into the darkness by herself here.
Please, lend him your power.
There's a few other things we've seen that seem to be missing parts too, and then we get the release date again, and that's that. Wait up, this video is not finished yet. As of finalizing it, Nintendo released a Tears of the Kingdom gameplay demonstration, and it pretty much confirms a lot of what we already discussed while keeping a lot of things still a secret. Firstly, Sky Islands, they're probably not related to Skyloft like I thought they might have been. We still don't really know how they got there, but the Zonai were confirmed. You can see their constructs here, so it pretty much insinuates that these islands are related to the Zonai. The whole thing about weapons breaking is back, but there is a new weapon fusing system that can increase your weapon's attack, the type of attack it does, and range, which explains a lot of what we've already seen. Like for example, this homing arrow attack that uses an arrow fused with a Keese eye to lock onto enemies. This spirit-looking cannon might be a fusion of two weapons as well, and some general weapon fusing was shown as well. Vehicle crafting was shown too, where a boat was made. It was pretty cool and showed how you can stick objects together, which also explained that sticky goo stuff that we saw on other vehicles. So it seems like the physics engine the game has is going to be used even more. We also saw that most ceilings can be traversed into and you can come out at the top of it, which was shown off to be pretty useful if you're in a cave and you want to reach the top of a mountain. Oh, and of course, all of these abilities have names. The first one is called Recall, which allows you to rewind an object's movements. The second one is called Fuse, and it allows you to fuse weapons together to create better ones. The third one is called Ultra Hand, which allows you to put things together. We were shown it to be used to make vehicles, but I'm sure you could do other things with it as well. And the last one shown was Ascend, the one that allows you to go through ceilings. Obviously, there may be other abilities that we haven't seen, and I don't think the Sheikah Slate is coming back. There seems to be a lot of emphasis on this, so I don't see a reason as to why the Sheikah Slate should come back, or would come back. But that also begs the question on how amiibo capabilities and photo taking is going to come back. That is, if it does come back. I'm pretty sure amiibo capabilities will come back, but the photo taking? Who knows? And then the whole thing ends with Link getting pushed off an island, and then we see this sort of building. I wasn't quite sure what to make of it, but it looks almost like a house being built. So maybe we get to build it. So now, what are we left with? A game that gives us what we'd expect from an open-world Legend of Zelda game, but with a whole lot more. Breath of the Wild was already a massive departure from what we expect, and Tears of the Kingdom looks like an expansion on those ideas, or even an evolution on them. It looks like the most likely next step for the story is for Zelda and Link to find the source of Calamity under Hyrule Castle, Ganondorf, which reawakens him and he wreaks havoc on Hyrule again. From there, Link must save Zelda and the rest of Hyrule by making his way back to Ganondorf and defeating him, unless Zelda is more of a companion and that part of the story is being hidden to avoid spoilers. And just like in the first game, you better be able to go and defeat Ganon right off the bat, or in this case, Ganondorf. When it comes to the gameplay and features of the game, I think the same applies here. An expansion of ideas, an evolution. More enemies, weapons, ways to traverse, and features we don't even know much about have been teased. We can also expect a lot from the islands and verticality we'll be seeing from the game. After all, it's been showcased over and over again. These islands could replace the ancient shrines too, since we've already done them, unless they get remixed somehow. Where these islands come from is unknown, but they could be related to Skyloft or have been lifted up into the sky by Calamity, but who knows at this point. How much of this game will have to do with Prophecy too? The reverse music being so similar to the Events of 100 Years Ago cutscene may have to do with the Zonai. I've mentioned them so much in this video, but there's no way they don't have anything to do with this game. They must have a main role in this story, right? Well, what about the Sheikah? We haven't seen them appear in any trailers. Well, other than their technology. How will they affect the outcome of the game? And we haven't even seen any other races in trailers either. They should all still be around, so it's safe to say that we'll definitely be seeing them. Will other characters from Breath of the Wild be returning too? After all, we don't even know how far into the future these events are, or how long Ganondorf has been imprisoned like this for. I did hear a theory back in 2019 which linked this Ganondorf to the one from Twilight Princess, since they have a similar scar on their chests. Twilight Princess's Ganondorf was defeated, and Ganondorf never comes back with previous battle scars, so it wouldn't make any sense unless this didn't actually kill him. Ooh, actually, speaking of characters, the champions, will they be returning in their spirit forms? Will they help guide Link once more, or have their spirits already rested? Another big question to ask is if time travel of some kind is going to be present in the game. After all, we do see Link go from his regular Breath of the Wild look to a more scruffy version of him that has similarities to the Link present from 10,000 years ago. Could he inherit the powers and skills of that Link? Sort of like how Twilight Princess's Link learned skills and techniques from the Ocarina of Time / Majora's Mask one? Or will there be two Links, or an ability to swap between the two and two time periods? Only time will tell. But that's that. We've gone through all of the trailers and teasers we've been given across almost 4 years, and we've seen and commented on everything they have to offer. There's been a surprisingly high amount of information we've been able to gather, and even more to speculate on. I don't know about you, but I'm very much looking forward to this game coming out. There seems to be a lot of what we love about Breath of the Wild, but even more. So, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. Here's a massive shout out to my lovely patrons. You're all absolute legends, and I can't thank you enough for your pledges. But what do you all think of the trailers? What do you make of them? Are there some ideas and themes discussed that you can add onto, or did I miss something that you noticed? Let us all know in the comment section down below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you enjoy my content, and I'll catch ya in the next one.